President. Thank you.
All right, good morning. We want to call the co-curricular meeting of the Board of Education together. It's August 1st, 2022. Everyone who should be here is in attendance. All three board members, Brian Borowski, principal of the high school, and Aaron May as our activity director. Can I get approval of the current agenda as is?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so public comments. We don't have any public comments on today's agenda, so I'm going to turn it over to Aaron May to cover his information.
You want to just start with the memo, and then we can go to the supporting documents as needed. The center one on that top row. So after each season, I provide the participation report. One of the strengths of our programs is our participation rates. Holding fairly consistent. Track is our second largest sport in terms of participation overall. And then middle school track, we've seen tremendous numbers every year. We're always in that about 120 to 150 range at the middle school level. So you can see our numbers there. And we have boys golf is a challenge with 50 boys trying to be on the golf team. So there's been some discussions about how to best facilitate those types of practices and teams. Right now we run a varsity, a JV, a varsity reserve, and a JV about whether or not to add a team and how to address that, because it does become a bit of a supervision issue with that many golfers.
Are they still using Cherokee and 6 Mile?
So Cherokee was closed.
Oh, that's right.
So we were at 6 Mile. We would go to Vitens. We would take them over to what's
19.
yeah, Molly out there. And other places is just yeah. So yes, Cherokee was not available to us other than going over there and using their practice green. So taking a dozen kids over there just to putt, by the time you drive away, it's just not the most effective use of practice time.
Right.
So
Do other schools have the same kind of numbers with that they?
the Badger Conference, no.
I don't know.
Most other Badger Conference schools, you're looking at about 15 kids.
15.
Our participation numbers much higher than just about everybody in the Badger Conference. Boys and girls lacrosse, still strong numbers. Same with girls soccer, and boys tennis. We'll be curious to see how that goes. We had a pretty strong senior class that just graduated, so we may see a slight dip in those numbers next year. Scrolling down, just the average GPA, the students involved. You're looking at basically 3.0s and above. That one on the bottom, that's all sports. That's if we took the average GPA, all fall, winter, spring sports, and their second semester average GPA. I don't think it's shocking. Students that are involved in extracurriculars, whether it's sports, performing arts, anything like that, they're typically higher performers. So those are numbers we expect to see there. When I scroll down, Pepsi contract, I added this in. Brian had a question about it. In 2018, we did sign a 3-year contract with Pepsi to have them exclusively provide our cold beverages. Part of the reason for that is it helped us pay for some of the new scoreboards that we put in. During that time, I would say girls basketball was probably the most upfront about it. The pricing from Pepsi is not always the best, and it still isn't. So the contract expired. We did not re-up with Pepsi. We still have, I think it's 5 of their coolers in our different concession stands. So we get those for free. They maintain them for free with the stipulation that only Pepsi products are in there. So Booster clubs are able to stock if they want to put, and girls soccer did it this spring, if they want to put other products in there, they can, but it has to be like subsidiaries of Pepsi. So they had like sparkling water or some, whatever, seltzer water in there and those different things. But as long as it's owned by Pepsi, then that's fine. They can continue to do that. We still purchase from Pepsi for Warrior Stadium for the football games. And then in the winter in the field house, because our clubs, our personal clubs do that. And there's just no way that any of those groups could stock and maintain a cooler to get ready for a football game or to get ready for a boys basketball game at that time. So we still continue to do that.
So Pepsi actually comes to restock.
No. We, over the years, their services, they have cut back on their service. Originally, we had a sales rep. He came in, my uncle used to do this. This was his job. Like, go in and he would tell us, it's like, here's what you need. And it was great because he took care of all of the ordering for us. So we were never overstocked or understocked on anything. They took our sales rep away, raised our prices, limited the delivery days. They only deliver on Fridays now to us. And so Jen and I, this last year, we're trying to figure out based off of what we ordered last year. We had a lot of overstock at the end of the fall. Luckily, we were able to basically chew it all up in the winter before it expired. When they took our sales rep away about a year ago, a little over, we went around, we talked with a couple of the other distributors in the area. They did not want to get involved in schools. Pepsi is the only one willing to even do that work.
So not having a contract with them, we can still use their coolers, but we still have to abide by nothing but Pepsi products in them.
Yeah.
Are our booster clubs now allowed to go out and buy?
Yeah, so if like I said, girls soccer did it, they used our coolers.
Mhm.
So they went to Costco, stocked it themselves. They just made sure everything they purchased was owned by Pepsi Cola. And if you want to, if you're girls soccer or boys soccer and you want to bring in your own cooler, run it that way, I suppose you can. It's a lot of administration, a lot of work.
Right.
That's the nice thing about Pepsi, especially when we had the sales rep. But he would tell you, it's like, hey, I ordered 3 cases of X, Y, and Z, and then it would just be in the soccer concession stand for them to stock when they need it. So like Wednesday, we will order. We're gonna do all our fall order this Wednesday. It'll get delivered Friday. Saturday and Sunday, my boys spend stocking all the coolers. And then it's kind of get everybody started up and running.
Does Tahoe have a contract with any? So
No, they ordered all their,
sorry.
not that I'm aware of. They get their drinks from Cisco. I talked a little bit back when Connie was running it, because Sauk Prairie, because I was just asking some other schools, like, how do you administer this? This is a little unwieldy. Sauk Prairie, their food service stocks and orders all their soda and cold drinks for them. And then they split the money. So if your club was running the concession stand that night and you sold $50 worth of soda, 25 would go back to Tahoe and 25 go to your club. That's how Sauk Prairie does it. So I was just trying to figure out creative ways to maybe manage this a little bit better. I'd love to get out of the soda popcorn business if I could.
So you made the fall order. Fall order is done.
So, the first initial order to get everything stocked up.
Okay.
That'll actually happen on Wednesday. So we have to order on Wednesday. It gets delivered that Friday. And then, so we're gonna get it done now. So that way it's all stocked and in coolers. And then me and my boys aren't running around. Cause it's an all day to do stock all those coolers. It's an all day project. They're not running around first week of volleyball season or football season, trying to get all those things in the cooler. And it's just off our checklist.
It's 5 coolers.
Let's count. So we got one in the field house. We have 3 in Warrior Stadium, and then 1 up in soccer. Yeah, 5.
And without a contract, if they break down or anything, who's on?
Pepsi still repairs them for free because we've agreed to only use Pepsi products in the coolers. And we have, it seems like we have some Pepsi people that live in this community because we've had weekend tournaments where all of a sudden I'll get an email like, there was 7-Up in the cooler. What do you know? And so then I have to remind, whether it's youth wrestling, youth basketball, whoever, like, can't be ordering, you can't be putting those products in our coolers. You know, if you want to bring coolers from home and stash them in there, you're allowed to, but you can't put them in the actual Pepsi coolers.
So where this comes into play is when different groups are doing fundraisers probably.
Yep.
So hosting a tournament or doing something with the youth. And then they have an opportunity to perhaps do more fundraising if they bring in their own product. And it just needs to be a Pepsi product in order to store it in those coolers.
Yeah, so like sorry, my laptop's about to put that up. So like what the girls soccer team did is they had someone, they basically did Costco runs.
Yeah.
And as long as, you know, bubbler,
Bubbler.
that was the big seller among the spring. But they would do like weekend runs and stock it up that Monday for the week. So it was,
So it sounds like too, there could potentially be an opportunity to figure out more efficient way to manage. So your group isn't, you and your group aren't managing filling and stocking.
well, and
sewing
Jen,
machines.
yeah, and Jen and I sit there and try and figure out where. I'll just read it up there. Yeah, Jen and I are still trying to figure out what's the best way to do that. That's kind of why we looked at, you know, Dr. Pepper, RC Cola, any of those other distributors in the area be willing to do this, and they're not.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
for years, it was you want bench seats donated, you want
Yeah.
scoreboards donated, and then, yeah, probably.
Sort of your point, you almost didn't burn through what you had. Maybe it isn't sitting, you know, and there's other products out there now, if it's bubble or whatever, that are the trendy things, and we can't even utilize the coolers
Well,
we have potentially.
Well, yeah, the bubbler we can, it's a Pepsi product.
Okay.
So last fall, as Jen and I were wading through this, we got to the end of the fall season and we had a lot of extra. Now, we were lucky enough that we were able to move that inside to the field house and sell it down. But yeah, it was, we were sitting there just trying to figure out like, you know, what do we want to be going through? So.
Yeah, so I would, you know, to your question before, I mean, yeah, if clubs want to go buy it at Costco, just buy
They
Pepsi.
can, yeah.
That's fine too. If they want to have something that's not Pepsi, you would bring in another cooler, have it down
Yeah.
underneath and just put a sample up on
Sure.
top.
And
So,
honestly, outside of just thinking of our regular matches or games, outside of probably volleyball and wrestling and gymnastics, our crowds are too big to manage. Like that, you go through it, burn through it so fast. And that's, you know, like I said, all the student clubs do football and all the student clubs do the winter sports, except for, you know, boosters get their youth nights. They still appreciate that because that takes a huge organizational piece of that off the table for them, that they can just show up and all that is stacked and ready for them to go. So there is some benefit there. But yeah, the unit price, the wholesale price they charge to us is continuing to go up, and it's, you know, I think we're charging $2.25 for a soda, and we are still waiting to hear back from our person about what the wholesale price is going to be this year.
Two things. So when I've worked events, whether it's for whatever club, and that's it's already stocked in there, and it's like off limits, don't touch this stuff. Is that like clear with different groups, you know, like if it's a booster, I'm trying to think of one specifically, but where it's stocked with that product, but yeah, we can't sell that product. Is that ever the case?
So that's booster clubs going out and buying their stuff and wanting to sell their stuff first and not sell our stuff.
Okay.
And the reason why they would do that is because there's more opportunity to raise more money.
Yeah.
In that.
The unit price.
But there, I mean, I would imagine, just like with anything, there's an opportunity for clarity or to have more consistent communication around how the process works. You know,
So-
there's new people coming in and out of. leadership.
Somewhat to that communication, then would it be helpful to have a list of acceptable products then, because it isn't clear that this is a Pepsi product, or, you know, because I'm sure they have water too, and it's gonna be this water.
Yeah.
Or whatever, so
Yeah.
it would probably be helpful to have that list.
Yeah.
So,
And we usually provide that with, to whoever the boost, and it's gotten more common now, or more recently, we provided that information to the, like the booster club, the concession person. The communications, just a paragraph, and in that folder too, I included some of the stuff that I've shared out with coaches, basically based off of what's provided by the NFHS. The National Federation of High Schools think of it as the WIAA's parent. It is basically the organizing body for all of the different states' WIAAs. So they're the overriding organizing body, and they provide a lot of whether it's coaches, PD, professional development. They provide online courses for engaging with parents, sportsmanship, leadership, a bunch of different tools that way. So what I've included there is kind of what NFHS recommends or wants or would like to see with their coach to parent communications. I've also included kind of the activities department kind of chain of command things that we talk about. Our freshman athletic code meeting way back when, if you remember that, that's how I end that meeting. We talk about kind of appropriate communication between parents and coaches. But I included some of those documents in there. It's something we talk about quite a bit. It's changed over the years. And we have some coaches that have been here for a long time and have seen those changes and have adopted well to those changes. And we've had some coaches that, well, it worked for me when I first started, and it's, in their opinion, still works. Maybe in the opinion of some of the parents and kids, maybe it doesn't. And that's always an ongoing conversation that we have with those coaches at the end of the year. So, questions regarding that? The next part, the ticket sales report. This is gross sales. I typically at the end of the year, I just provide a gate receipts for the year. This past year was slightly different. So if you recall, in the fall, we were pushing to go cashless. Then the WIA announced that they were going to go cashless for all of their playoffs, and so that's when we moved. So with the playoffs the fall, that's when we moved to all cashless. And then from there, winter and spring went cashless completely. So if you look at the bottom table, that's cash ticket sales. That's the fall regular season. Amount of tickets sold for each of those sports, the dollars taken in. And the top table, now it looks like a lot, and it is. It's quite a bit of money. But that includes playoffs at that top table. So when you look at football, those 7,500 tickets sold, that dollar amount there, that's gross sales. So that includes GoFans service charge. And then it also, all that money, that includes the WIA's portion of those dollars. So for football playoffs, each home game, WIA gets 80% of the ticket of the gate revenue. We as the host school get to keep 20%. So So while those numbers look very large, and they are, not all of that, in fact, most of that doesn't necessarily stay with us at the school here.
Do you know what the surcharge is for the Go fan?
It's $1 a ticket.
So it's $7,000
Basically, they made off of that.
for football.
And so that's what I was gonna bring up with comments like that when talking this. It's kind of termed as not even a service, a convenience fee. Who's it convenient for? The fan is the one paying, and it's not convenient for them. You know, it's like when you get to, I think it was even more for the playoff tickets, more than $1. It was more.
Good amount, yeah.
And so from that, it's just, yeah, and a lot in today's world, it seems like it's, yeah, we're just gonna assume it, but that is a big chunk of money, I think, for the fan to, you know, if you can pay cash and get a discount, it's worth the discussion. It's not a convenience fee for the fan at all.
So if you could talk to how it's convenient for the school.
Yeah, I would, the
Yeah.
convenience fee, I guess, I look at it, when you do purchase anything online, there's always those charges, but I'll just use level 3 football phenomenon. We had, that game alone, we had over $15,000 in ticket sales. So if you look at it, that week, we've got to make up cash boxes, 4 of them that week. So Sue is going to have to build those cash boxes all during the week. So we're going to need more than that 15,000, just kind of make those cash boxes, divvy them up between them. We sell them. So she's counted the money. We purchase, we get done with the ticket sales. For that 15 minutes, when Sue and Jen and the ticket takers are coming back from the ticket booth and then counting it out in the conference room, they're probably some of the cash richest people in the community. So, you know, our SRO is escorting them back there. They're counting out the cash in the back room, locking it up in the safe. There's been games where our game will be over and they'll still be counting the cash out. So then on Monday, it's counted out a second time. The deposit slips are made over, it's sent over here, it's counted out another time, and then deposited. So we've been able to basically reassign a whole bunch of work of Sue and Jen to other areas. So it's made our office much more efficient. And it's made the administration of these different things much more accurate too, in terms of counting out, because we know exactly how many tickets were sold, which ones were redeemed, which ones weren't. You know, we've had some people, and we have a community member, couple community members that want to come to every football game, that don't have the technology, don't have a smartphone, don't have a laptop. And we've worked with them, we've worked with other people like that to get them tickets that they need, whether we've comped them, whether we've given them, or other people have purchased tickets for them. We've noticed it's increased our pass sales, because now families are like, well, I just get the pass and I'll be set for the whole family for the rest of the year. So it's definitely made our office more efficient and allowed us to be able to do other things and get other projects done in a more timely manner for us. So I understand it's an extra cost to the families, but the benefits we see on the back end for us is pretty huge.
I guess you just kind of made my point. It's a convenience for the school that the fans paying for. I mean, it's a fee that the school should really pick up. I mean, if I'm trying to be an advocate for the parent or a fan coming in, it's like, it's not my responsibility to do all of those things. It's you guys, and yet I'm paying for it. It seems obvious to me, but totally get that it's easier. And in addition to that, like you mentioned, there's some that probably don't have the ability or avoiding technology. I've heard from parents that we were turned away at a certain sporting event. So their grandparents came and they couldn't even go into it. And that's pretty disappointing. Like, we don't have an option for you. That's what they were told. And then they're turned around. So
I don't know if that ever happened where we've told a person they just can't do that. We
I'm
problem
just hearing it
solve
from-
that, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just hearing it from parents, that's passed on to me, so.
So there's not a cash option
There are
for
no,
visitors or?
there's no cash options. I will tell you this, like I've said, we've never, we've never turned someone away. We've provided other ways for them to watch the game. But I've never just told someone, and I hope none of my ticket takers have told people like, no, you need to go. But that, I don't know of an instant where that's happened. It is going to become more common. The Classic 8 is moving to it. DeForest and Sauk Prairie just let us know they're moving to all online sales only. So it's something that's going to become more commonplace on high school sports.
Something Aaron and I have talked about, you need somebody to create the GoFan app for Waunakee or high schools. It's a great opportunity where if somebody could create it, and we're not having parents or others pay for that service fee, that we pay a one-time cost for something that somebody creates, and then we're done and we own it. If it was something that the school could pay one of our students to create, and then it's ours, then there isn't a service fee. I think where it ends up, you end up paying is just like any place now. Many places don't want you to use your credit card anymore because of the 3.5% that the credit cards take. So there's where the service fees come in, and that's what you're paying for, because they're taking, really, GoFan's probably getting a small chunk because it's 3.5% to use a credit card anywhere. Right? Any business owner will tell you that I'd rather you pay cash.
About this time last year, might have been earlier than that. As a Badger conference, because it was myself, there's a few others that were looking at it. We've been doing passes this way for a while at that time. About, can we as the 16 school conference get together, maybe select one, whether it's GoFan, there's a couple of GoFan home tickets ticket. It's like choosing between like, Coke or Pepsi. There's not a big difference. They're all pretty much the same. But as a conference, we couldn't agree because we were hoping that way, like if we have 16 schools agreeing to get in on this, and we're not saying you all have to go cashless now, but when you do, you're going to go with whatever company the conference selects, and we could leverage those tickets to reduce that convenience fee too.
What is the process for students? Do they use the?
So the vast majority of our students will have a student pass, the student pass. So they'll come on with their phone, and it'll be on there, and I just don't have it. It'll be on there, and it'll have the validate button.
Yep.
So we hit that student pass, and then that's how they get in.
And they pay for that student pass up front.
Yeah, so that pass gets purchased. Well, I mean, they're on sale now. You buy that pass. It's good for the entire year for $50.
And I think there's family passes, and then there's also grandparent.
So, yep, so we have family passes. It's $150 regardless of the size of your family. So that's usually, if you have multiple kids, you're going to go to multiple seasons. That's usually the best, most cost effective for them. Senior citizen pass is the only paper that we still have. And those are all home regular season games. WI requires us to charge for playoffs. They never expire. If you lose it, just come back in, we fill it out. And what we have, and with the grandparents, what we have is we'll put them in the ticket boxes. So that way, hopefully if grandma or grandpa don't have smartphone or a way to purchase it, we'll just write out their senior citizen pass right there. So hopefully if it was a regular season game, there should have been no reason. So
Who sets the gate charge?
So the regular season is agreed upon as a conference agreement, and then the WIA sets the price for the playoffs.
Is there a discount by buying the pass as opposed to when we were taking cash?
So the season passes, the discount just comes in, like a season pass, a family pass is $150. So if it's you, your spouse, and maybe son or daughter, and you're gonna watch your child play football and then basketball, the discount comes with, there's enough home games over that time frame than if you're buying individual passes. We also do like 10-pack, where it's $1 cheaper, basically to buy the 10-pack, than it would be $1 a ticket cheaper than buying 10.
As well as
separate passes.
the convenience fee. Correct. I mean, if you're buying the pass, you don't have a convenience fee per game.
Right, yeah.
So I'm thinking there's probably an opportunity to do some major marketing, maybe with our sports marketing class or something, to get these family pass, or with our social media, with our communications department, to make sure people know about it. Like a big push in the beginning of the year, so that, and I'm almost like an advertisement, like buy your tickets now or whatever, as a convenience thing. I think we have a big opportunity to utilize some of the skill sets of our students who, can do that, and our communications department to push this stuff out so that we can get people, because our goal is to make connections. We want people to come to the games. We want kids to be there. The student passes are for sale, like a big push in communications with our students and with their families and with the community to make sure we can sell as many tickets as possible, just to get them there, and make it as convenient as possible. So we do have options that are convenient, just a matter of making sure that I know you do, you send out emails and stuff, but we can probably even, continue to make changes, improve upon it.
Yeah, definitely. We'll get more and more of the word out. If you want to go to the next, I want to go back to the folder and pull up just the financials. So this is the report. This is the format we've been using for, I want to say, about the last 4 years or so, this spreadsheet. You'll see on there, we leave this up to the boosters to define what a membership fee is, what their fundraising are, what's just a straight up donation. So this first tab is their revenues. I'm not going to just go through each one, but if you want to click on the expenses tab, I just want to note, is it gymnastics? So gymnastics and cross country, I reached out to both of them. I said, is it true that you had no expenses? And they're like, well, no, we took some dollars in, but the booster club didn't spend anything. Anything that was spent this year, we had the parents purchase. And I was like, well, I guess that's a little bit of splitting hairs then, because to me, that would still be kind of the parent group spending the dollars, whether you collected it as the booster club and turned around and made the purchase or not. I know, and I mentioned to Brian, gymnastics is looking at purchasing some replacement equipment. So they're trying to hold on to their money a little tighter that they fundraise for, because their equipment's pretty expensive. But so if you look at some of those expenses, they jump around quite a bit. We have, some uniforms and apparel costs there. Travel food is a big expense. It's, and maybe when you guys are in sports, your parents might pack you a lunch for the bus. That's how I kind of grew up too, but it's super convenient now when the boys you don't have to worry about packing that meal. It's really nice that way. I'll tell you that.
Is there a limit per student on what they can spend
In terms of like per student, you can spend it.
on a meal?
No, we have not. No, we have not ever instituted that.
Okay.
I would say the vast majority of those, like that travel food column, order from Taher, and do the Taher. They call them snack packs for the convenience, because Taher would put them in the coolers and just have them sitting there and next, either in trainer Matt's room or right there, and manager, freshman, whoever it was, would grab the coolers, bring them on. So I'd say the majority are that way. Football would still, you would sign up, and I mean, Heather and I remember us sitting there making 50, picking up the 50 slices of ham from the meat market and making 50 ham sandwiches for JV football last year when it was our turn. But you can, see some different things there. If you're football, and one of the things I think we can tackle in the upcoming years is really discerning and getting clear on what is dollars spent on the high school program? Or if you're, yeah, and I'm just gonna use football as the example. Touchdown Club supports the high school program, supports the middle school program, and then it runs the youth program. So, and one of the things I think we've talked about is how can we get some clarity on some of where those dollars, some of those dollars are going to. And I think that's a project for the upcoming years, because I know, football did purchase new uniforms. We have to purchase a lot for the football team, for just the varsity, 2 sets of uniforms. But I also know, because my son's in youth football, they purchased, football pants. And it's football pants. How expensive can it be? Well, when you have 3 4th grade teams, 3 5th grade teams, and 3 6th grade teams, that's 300 sets of football pants. Even for youth kids, that adds up pretty quickly. So I think that's something to get some clarity on too. I think that's some ways to do that. If you look at hockey and you go the equipment, that's you're looking at, and I've talked to them a little bit. That was their portion too, of paying some ice time stuff, and making some donations to the pond for, I believe, some Zamboni replacement things.
So how often do we do a specific audit on some of these? To say, all right, well, equipment is such a, like you just said, broad category. We would like to have it actually itemized this year to say, this is really what it is itemized. Don't just throw it in equipment into the 7 categories. If it has to go to 50 categories, go to 50 categories. But I think on some of these, we should start doing an audit every so often.
I want to say in like 2017-18, that was how we used to do the report, and you would get like boys basketball, it'd be a page and it'd be like itemized like things. And then I want to say around the 2017-18 school year, that board at that time was like, I don't want that. Like, I don't want that detail.
Mm-hmm.
I would say we would be an outlier in the state of Wisconsin if we were to require that. So,
be an outlier. But no, I think it's needed. I think, and that's something we can continue to talk about. But personally, at the college level, we didn't do this. That's for sure. We itemized if somebody bought something, there's a receipt for it somewhere.
Well, I'm pretty sure each club probably has that already. What is this? What is the purpose of providing that to us if it's their own club? And
well, if it's bought for the school, then it actually turns into school money. So if they raised a $50,000, kept 25, but 25 of it was spent on equipment and stuff like that, that becomes a Title IX issue, and we need to start tracking what money is given and what's being used for, so we can actually say, are we within Title IX laws? And we'll discuss more of that probably the rest of this sometime this next year. But
yeah, once it gets turned over to us, it's, we have to own it. And
plus, these are employees of ours, so we have to every so often make sure that their accounting is correct and they're using the money appropriately.
So like the school owns the uniforms?
So, yeah, you look at it and it's used, the booster club pays for it, but by reality, those are school uniforms.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, we've, for many different reasons, valid, not valid, depending on your perspective, like, we don't have places to store them. We don't have places to keep them. So they've been sitting in people's homes. They've been sitting out in a storage unit behind Rex's or other things like that. So, but
it will also help too in the future to be able to ask the school for more money to support these programs instead of having the parents pay extra to be able to afford some of this stuff. And because the school should have say, the district should have a say on what goes on a uniform, what does, and stuff like that. And so it needs to be, and maybe the booster clubs then say, pay for it. Well, then we need to track how much is actually being spent. But again, it's more of once it goes on the backs of our athletes, or if it goes on the football field, or a rebound machine, that's school property now. And it counts towards school dollars in terms of equity.
So one of the things when I came here that we didn't really have was a written out uniform rotation. And so I've basically, and I've had to make it work within my budget without expanding my budget, but I earmark approximately $9,000 to $10,000 every year for uniforms. And I have the teams on a 4-year rotation. Every team is included in it. Now, what I've told the coaches, you're free to, if you want to step outside that rotation, and you like, because we had some sports that were on a 2-year rotation, which to me was crazy when I came in here. I'm like, you're free to keep that rotation, but I am not, like, I've got it budgeted out that this is when the school dollars will come back in. So if you want to go now and make this purchase, you need to understand that you're, as a booster club, you're taking that on as your own project.
So when the booster clubs make a purchase like that, like a shooting machine or uniforms, you're aware of it.
Yes.
Yeah. So you know, because they're working in conjunction with you. So some of that stuff we don't necessarily need to know about because you're managing it
And
with
it's,
your department.
and yeah, it's typically itemized in our 21 reports. If you pull up a detailed revenue and expense report on there, you can see those different purchases.
There may be a couple things like cross country, they buy their own like uniform shirt.
Yeah.
They buy, like, there was 0
Yeah.
across.
Well, yeah, and those are some, like, we have those purchases, but then there's some kids that'll purchase their own.
Yeah.
I can just, as you know, as a wrestling parent, other wrestling parents, doesn't bother me much. Don't like the idea of sharing singlets,
Yeah.
like you getting a new singlet the next year, even though it's been washed. So they'll, the Mark always has that opportunity. I think you can call it buying your singlet, but it's, here we do the raffle, they do the raffle fundraiser, and sell the tickets, the 20 tickets or whatever it is, you automatically get the quote clean singlet.
Yeah, and they work with Aaron, but Aaron should document, it costs 20 grand for that shooting machine. So that's 20,000, that's now school property that needs to go into a formula or goes into a chart. So at the end of the year, well, we spent 200,000 on these sports, we spent 80,000 on these. Does it fall in to being equitable and the laws? So as you know, we get emails we have a lot of attorneys in this town. So they're already aware of inequities that we have and we're working on.
So yeah, this will be a long range conversation, just to ensure that we're being income. There's different ways of accounting for it. Title IX compliance is a 3-pronged compliance test, so it's one of those 3. So
Just help to protect our district.
so I'll go back to the memo. I think I've got just one more on the next page. And these are just kind of projects or goals for this upcoming year. So our wall of fame is moving along pretty well. Plan is, I will say this, my goal was to have it up and running last year. That was, in retrospect, overly ambitious when Jen and Sue and I got into it. But right now we've got all the all-state athletes, scholar athletes, Hall of Fame coaches loaded in. We're working on getting team photos for all of our state championship teams loaded up. The guidance office is working on a list of National Merit Scholar finalists, and the music department, performing arts department, Rick Braun's working on 1-act Critics' Choice winners. Molly Petrov's working on getting me a list for solo ensemble. I can't remember the name of the level there. So we're gonna when we debut it is, yes, it's going to be sports heavy, but we're already working on expanding it to performing arts and to some academic recognition, with our goal for it to be ready, I think, for our first home volleyball match here at the end of August. But we're going to continue to build that out as we go through. The next big sort of year-long goal is a full review of the middle school co-curricular code. That'll be, Jeff Keenis, myself, Mike Sabell, but then bringing in the head coaches, putting a call out to some parents, and reviewing the different aspects of the code. Jeff and I have had some very preliminary conversations regarding academic standards at the middle school and some other things about participation there. So I'm feeling there'll be some bigger changes outside of just language pieces here or there. But that'll be something that we'll be reviewing over the course of this school year. And then number 3, so prior to everything kind of getting shut down, I had started some conversations with some of the booster clubs about a couple different things. First was like, creating a universal handbook for booster clubs. We have some that already have them. If you're in the touchdown club, you sit down and you get, basically a binder about hog breakfast. If you're in the wrestling club, there's a binder telling you exactly this is what you order for if we're hosting sectional wrestling for the concession stand. But try to make that a little more universal, because we have some other booster clubs, they're smaller or they don't have that same level of organization and detail. So we're working on the idea of building something like that, along with some bylaw language for some of our other booster clubs. So kind of developing a template or a best practices handbook for those booster clubs to give to them. Along those lines, there's been some conversations about some ways to, what I think the phrase we were using at the time was to unify the ask to the community. And just starting with baby steps, like every sport does a poster. But, if you're just Waunakee ETC, you're getting hit up 22 different times to maybe purchase an ad spot on the different sports posters. So if there's and this is just a brief example, like there's some way to unify that ask as a whole booster club community and say, listen, here's the posters, there's 6 spots on softball, there's 6 spots on baseball, there's 6 spots on lacrosse, which one, and they're X amount each, which one would you like to be in? So if you're, Waunakee ETC, you can say, well, we would like to be on the baseball and the softball or something, whatever it might be. Just so that way, instead of feeling like you're getting hit every other week, we're trying to unify some of those conversations and not repeat ourselves. And so the community doesn't feel like it's getting hit multiple different times. One of the other things we're looking at is how to make sure we're, some booster clubs communicate through Blue Sombrero, some use Team Snap, some use, so we're trying to look at ways to make it easier for parents in the community. I still have the Team Snap app on my phone, even though they don't use it anymore and things like that. So we can make it more of a one-stop shop. So those are kind of our overarching goals for the school year.
Do you have a time frame for those things? I know it's.
So a couple of us, and it's one of those things we're trying to set up kind of a guiding group to sit down and meet. I would say it was going really well, or we were having some really good productive conversations among a very core group before we were going to bring it to the booster club. And that was, things got shut down. Then it was all hands on deck about going, so bunch of turnover. So now we're got to kind of rebuild that group again.
Okay.
So that's the goal this year, is kind of first rebuild that guiding group,
Okay.
and then bring it wider to all the booster clubs. Ideally, we would bring it wide to the booster clubs before winter break.
Okay.
So that would give us kind of that guiding group of fall to kind of talk,
About priorities.
create a plan
Yeah.
before and feel confident in that before bringing it to the other 20
Yeah.
booster clubs. That's my report. I know we had some other topics, but we just felt with the time frame today. So Randy wanted to set up another co-curricular meeting before the September board meeting to discuss kind of what the evaluation process is and board policy for coaches and that process. So if we want to pull up our calendars.
You guys prefer morning or morning?
What works for you? Is our mornings, do you prefer mornings?
Yeah, morning's fine.
Okay.
Next meeting was 12 September. That's September meeting, second
Yes.
Monday. Yeah. I'm good the last weekend of August, or last week of August,
You're talking the 22nd or the 29th? The full
the
week?
29th.
29th.
But we can also do it.
I'm good that week.
I'm good that week too.
Yeah,
Just
any
the 30th, from Tuesday morning.
Tuesday morning would work for me.
Tuesday morning, the 30th.
Yeah.
7:30, 8:30.
7:30. Yeah, it's PD day, so the earlier the better.
Okay.
Yeah, 7:30. I think I'll have an item on the agenda.
7:30 on the 30th. Okay. Sounds good. Okay. Guess the last thing is to adjourn. I get a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye. Thank you, everyone.